Hey, Novel Nighthawks. Here we are with Module 5, Lesson 5. Our objective for this lesson is I will be able to decompose unit fractions using area models to show equivalence. So remember, decompose means we're breaking things apart. So we're breaking our whole apart into fractions. Area models we use for all sorts of different math strategies. And with fractions, we're going to use this to show equivalence, which means equal. So if I have 1/2 and I have 4/8, those two are equivalent because they are both half of the whole. Okay. Um, so this is kind of an introduction to how we can multiply to make equivalent fractions. But first we want to understand, we want you to see it. And that's the whole purpose of the area model, is allowing you to see what is happening. Sorry, I have a really itchy nose. What is happening to make those equivalent fractions, and why are they equivalent? Why are they equal? Okay, so this first one, it says draw horizontal lines to decompose each rectangle into the number of rows as indicated. Okay, use the model to give the shaded area as both as a sum of unit as fractions as a multiplication sentence. Lots of instructions. Okay, so what they did was, notice this horizontal line is kind of dotted. Okay, that's the new line. That's the new fraction. So what they started with was, imagine that line is gone. I don't think I can move it. And we just had this one full unit shaded. It was one of the 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So when we started, we had 1/4. Okay, so there's our 1/4. And then as soon as they took that line and they took it across, they decomposed the whole even more. Okay, but we still have the same amount shaded. So now, when you look at this, now we have 2 shaded. And how many units was that broken into? So we have 2, and there's 2, 4, 6, 8. So we can say that 1/4 is equal to 2/8. Because as soon as I decompose that, I just have smaller pieces, right? But I have the same amount as the whole. My shaded part didn't change. So that's why they are equal. They're just, it's broken apart into smaller pieces. So we could say that 1/4 is equal to 1/8 plus 1/8, right? That's going to give us that 2/8. Because my 1/4, when I decomposed it, it became 1/8, 1/8. You guys see that? Which is equal to 2/8. And then, so remember when we take multiplication, well, they're wanting to turn this into a multiplication sentence. So now we can say 1/4 is equal to 2 times that 1/8, that new fraction that we decomposed into. So we would have our 1/8. Remember when we did our multiplication in the last lesson? So if I have 1/4, and we know that 1/4 is equal to 2/8. Well, if I have 2 times 1/8, remember we don't do anything to our denominator. That stays the same. 2 times 1 gives me 2. So I have 2/8. Okay. That's a lot, I know, but we're going to do it a few times so you will you'll understand it even more. Okay. All right, so same thing. First, we need to find out, well, what are we starting with? What's our starting fractional unit? Okay, so we have 1 shaded. How many are there total? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're starting with 1/5. Okay, and they just want us to draw one horizontal line across, and that's what this guy is. So we're going to take our horizontal line and decompose. We're breaking that area model up into 2 more parts. But notice our shaded part's the same, but now we have more units. Okay, So now I'm going to have 2. You see 2 are shaded now. And how many do we have total? So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So now I have 2 tenths. 2 tenths. So 1/5 is equal to 2 tenths. Okay. And we can show that just like we did on the last one here. So first they wanted us to show that 1/4 is equal to 2/8 in a addition sentence, and then rewrite that as a multiplication sentence, okay? So when I give you guys the practice, I'll include this one that we did together so you have this example. Okay, so we're gonna say that, remember, you can do this all on paper. You do not have to do all the clicking and dragging, but you can do it on paper if you would like. So we're gonna say 1/5 is equal to, and we're gonna use an addition sentence to represent 2 tenths, is equal to 1 tenth plus, and if you're doing clicking and dragging, it doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be legible. Like if it's not perfectly lined up, that's okay. Okay, so there's our addition sentence representing that 2 tenths. And if we were to rewrite that, change this section into a multiplication sentence. Remember, like especially in my small groups this week, if we are trying to rewrite this as a multiplication, I had some kids saying 2 tenths times 2 tenths. We're not doing fraction times a fraction right now. We're doing a whole number times a fraction. Okay, fraction times a fraction. That comes much later in our unit. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this as a multiplication sentence. I'm going to come over here. 1/5 is equal to, and I have 2 tenths. So I'm going to have 2 times 1/10. And that would give us that 2 tenths, okay? So if you think about this, and if you look at just kind of a little overview to what we're doing earlier or later, okay? If I look at this, I have 1/5 and 2 tenths, and I kind of make the correlation, well, 5 times 2, that gives me 10. 1 times 2 gives me 10. Because really what I did when I broke that in half is I doubled the amount of units I have. So you would multiply your numerator and your denominator by 2 to make an equivalent fraction. Okay, so that's kind of a quick overview of what we're doing next in our upcoming lessons. All right, let's do another one. Remember, you can always do this on paper with me as we're working through it to really master the skills. Okay, so same thing, we need to find out, well, what do we have? What are we starting with? I have a 1/3. There's 3 units total. One of those are shaded. So I have 1/3. That's what I'm starting with. And we're going to have an equivalent fraction after I use that horizontal line. So now when I take the horizontal line, I'm doubling. Okay, I'm doubling the amount that I have by breaking that into 2. So now I have 2, 6, 2, 4, 6. 2 of those are shaded. So 1/3 is equal to 2, 6. Okay. And instead of the addition sentence, I'm just going to jump to the multiplication because I feel like we're doing okay with the addition sentences. So we could show this and say, well, 1/3 is equal to, how many 6 do I have? I have 2. So I could say 2 times 1/6. And that would be equivalent to that 1/3. because we're multiplying by 2, because like I said on the last one, that's really what we're doing is we are doubling, okay? We are doubling. If I were to write this out as an addition sentence, it would have been 1/3 is equal to 1/6 plus 1/6. Okay, but instead, remember we talked last week, it's a little bit quicker just to do the multiplication. All right. We just did 1/2 and 3/6. I'm going to skip that one. All right, so 1/2 is equal to 4/8. This one it wants us to represent, to draw out the area model to show. So I know that if I have 1/2 first, so that I have 2 units total, okay? So there is my 1/2. And if I were to decompose that with my horizontal line, now I have that doesn't make sense. So notice that 4/8 is equal to 1/2, but 1/2 I need to decompose more to break it into 4. So we're going to have to draw a few extra horizontal lines. So notice when I just did 1, I have 2 fourths. Well, I need to do another horizontal line. I'm actually going to have to do 3 lines total. Okay, so it's really small, but now you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 and 4, that gives me 8, and 4 of those are shaded. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8s. 1/2 is equal to 4/8. So if we want to write this as a multiplication sentence, we would say 1/2, and we're working with 8s is our new unit, right? And how many 8s did we have? We had 4 total. So we could say that 1/2 is equal to 4 times 1/8. And that's going to give us that 4/8. And notice that 4 is half of 8, right? So when you're thinking, well, we could also say 8/16 is equal to 1/2. 10/20 is equal to 1/2, because all of those are half of your total amount of your denominator. Sorry, couldn't think of the word denominator. Okay. All right. Let's see. What's our next one? So some of these, as notice that we're getting 1/2 is equal to 5/10. So we would have to break that apart more than once. So this would be a good one to do, kind of like what we just did on the other one. Well, I need to make a total of tenths. So 2 times what gets me 10? 2 times 5 gets me 10. 1 times 5 gets me 10. So kind of what I've already said, if you make 5 rows, so we're going to need 4 lines, then that's going to decompose it enough for you. So you have to put them there. It's going to be really small, but you'll get the gist of it. It's not showing me where my line is, so it's really hard to tell. So there's 3 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4. So like I said, I'm going to need 4 lines to make those 5 units. Oh, I put that right on top of the other one. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 are shaded. So I have 5 and 5, which gives me 10. So 1/2 is equal to 5/10. If we were to write that as that multiplication, so our new fractional unit is tenths, and how many did we have? 5. So we're going to say 1/2 is equal to 5 times 1/10 will give us the total of 5/10. Sorry, I know this takes time, but I want you guys to see it so then when you go to practice, you know what you're supposed to do. Whoops. Okay. So as we're working through this week, we'll practice this more during small groups. And as always, if you have questions, please ask me. Making equivalent fractions, we won't always use the area model. We're going to get to where we're going to use multiplication. So I've kind of been addressing that as we go through. 2 times 5 gives me 10. The rule of making equivalent fractions is whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So if I multiply my denominator by 5, I have to multiply my numerator by 5. Okay? But we'll talk more on that later. All right, you guys, good job today. Keep working hard, and we'll see you guys soon.